In 2022, UNESCO added the French baguette to its intangible cultural heritage list. The artisanal know-how associated with the rules of baguette baking, on top of the fact that approximately 95% of the French eat a baguette every single day, are what qualify the crunchy bread for this prestigious title. Even though France may be the bread champion of the world, the idea of bread culture is not unique to this one European nation. In fact, travel to any number of places around the world and you'll discover the power that artisanal breads have to unite communities together. Well, almost any place. In the United States, bread looks different. What most Americans picture when they think of bread is something that looks like this, rather than something like this. And when Americans buy their bread, they go to a large supermarket where they can find a variety of brands pumped full of preservatives to keep their slices soft for up to a month at home. Even if they go to the special bakery section of the grocery store, they'll probably end up with a product that many would consider more closely related to cake than they would bread. But it couldn't have always been this way, right? What happened to bread culture in the US? Where did it go? To answer this question, first we have to go back a couple years. In 1928, an engineer from Iowa named Otto Frederick Rohweder changed history by inventing the bread slicer. In the beginning, a lot of people thought pre-sliced bread was a pretty useless invention. Sliced bread just meant that bread would go stale faster. So Rohweder upgraded his design to include packaging, and suddenly, sliced bread started to catch on. Then World War II hit. In an effort to mitigate malnutrition, the National Research Council requested that the milling industry add 8 essential nutrients into bread flour. Food scientists also experimented with preservatives that would make bread softer and last much longer in American pantries.
Needed to provide energy and help build strong bodies.
By the time the war was over, 3/4 of bread in America was enriched and marketed as a superfood. The practice of making soft, sliced, and pre-packaged bread has dominated the US market ever since. But something is starting to happen to artisanal bread culture. Over the past couple of years, the demand for bakery fresh bread has started to increase in the US, and it's projected to continue growing. Small hole-in-the-wall bakeries are popping up and collectively redefining what bread culture should stand for. And it all starts with ingredients.
I think what you make and what you use in your product 100% reflects the final product. So you always have the option to buy the cheaper version of the same product or the better one.
Price is one of the most influential factors that consumers consider when purchasing bread. But prices on menus don't usually tell the product's whole story. For example, you could see a loaf of sourdough listed at a bakery for $10. Compared to the grocery store's sourdough, that seems like a hefty upcharge at face value. But what you don't see is everything else that contributes value within that $10. Things like sustainability, quality ingredients, freshness of the product, and even the fostering of community. Provision Bread is a bakery in Colorado Springs committed to partnering with local and regenerative farms.
Regenerative agriculture involves things like crop rotation, growing a diverse selection of crops instead of one thing, and so it actually is good for the soil, adds nutrients back into the soil instead of when you grow like a single crop, it depletes the soil because it's taking one thing from it and nothing else is ever being returned.
So instead of making bread and pastries with white flour and not so sustainable ingredients, Provision prioritizes using whole grain flour from Colorado and sourcing produce from farms that don't use chemicals on their land.
We know who's growing our food, we know what practices they're using, we've visited a few of the farms.
Not only does that add up to you eating healthier food, but your environmental impact goes way down as well when there aren't pesticides, fertilizers, or long-distance transportation involved. The unparalleled freshness of artisan bread is another aspect pulling consumers towards these artisanal bakeries. Reunion Bread produces hundreds of sourdough and pastry products on the daily. But unlike many bakeries that bake all of their items at dawn before opening for retail, Reunion continuously pushes items through its miniature oven all day long.
It's really hard to do that way, but I think it's the right way to do it. I think that's also what makes our bakery extremely unique. Again, no matter when you come, you're gonna have a fresh croissant or a fresh pastel de nata, little Portuguese pastry.
And if you don't know what fresh bread tastes like straight out of the oven, you'll just need to try it to see why that's such a big deal. As Ismael would say,
oh, if I try to convince you to try a loaf, I'll just give you a loaf. Once you try our bread, you're converted immediately. So that's why, to me, the easy answer is like, I'll give you a loaf and your body will understand why it's better.
With more artisanal bakeries entering the scene, quality ingredients and fresh products are becoming more popular across the board. But the beauty of local business reveals that every individual company still shines because they all have different personalities that come through in their bakery products.
When I opened Rebel in Denver, I remember lots of people being like, isn't it saturated? Like, how is there room for another bakery? It's like, no, there's so much room. Everyone kind of does their own thing. A lot of them find their own followings, and there's probably still room for more.
That was Zach Martinucci, founder of Rebel Bread. Rebel Bread describes themselves as a big little bakery that does wholesale with the goal of supporting their bakers with creative freedom.
Even if our menus all say they're like, we all sell a croissant and a chocolate croissant or a sourdough or something like that, if you compare them all side by side, they're like completely different products. And I think that's really exciting for people that want to explore. It's great that they have that diversity in those options. And if you don't care that much, you're just there for the sourdough or croissant, it's great that you probably have somewhere close to you to at least get that level of quality. And there's no reason you can't support or be a fan of lots of different bakeries. And I think that's the best part, actually, is having this diverse bread culture to show people that bread and pastry isn't just one thing.
So it turns out artisanal bakery culture does exist in the US. You just have to take the extra step to find it. Though shopping at a supermarket may save you a bit of time and money, buying bread and pastries from places like Provision, Reunion, and Rebel Bread is definitely worth it. Being a conscious consumer not only means getting to enjoy top-notch products, but also being able to experience the delight of supporting businesses that embody what it means to be better. Therefore, next time you're craving that perfect bite to eat, treat yourself to a trip to the nearest artisanal bakery. Because it's not just about bread, but it's an opportunity to nourish the body, mind, environment, and community.